What's going on, guys? Shot Callers Podcast back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the 129-21 games, otherwise known as yesterday's games. So if you joined this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss anything. Ladies, gentlemen, and ballers, today is day 11 on Bradley Beal not being traded. Let's keep that trend going. Today we're going to be talking about 6 different games. So without further ado, let's just get this started. First up, we have the Hawks and the Wizards. This game, I wasn't going to really talk too much, but I ended up watching most of it because, I'm a Wizards fan. And I didn't go into the game with much expectations. It was pretty refreshing to see that Westbrook played like his old self, though. He attacked the basket early and had plenty of points in the paint and hit a couple threes while he was at it, using that to fuel his outside game. But at the end of the day, it just didn't matter because him, Robin Lopez, and Rondo ended up getting rejected. Not at all at the same time. I think it was Robin Lopez was on the bench, got ejected. Westbrook got pushed Rondo and got ejected. And then Rondo eventually just ended up getting ejected. I think for talking trash to Bradley Beal. Overall, this was just an ugly game. The refs had a hard time keeping it under control. And it was not the most enjoyable to watch. But at least I did watch Trae Young go off. He had about 42 points, 18 straight points in the fourth quarter. A dominating game by Trae Young. Absolutely unstoppable. Mans was pulling up from the parking lot from half court and was just cooking Isaac Bonga. Sad to see, but Mans was going off. Trae Young's been slowly picking it back up, and that's something I like to see. DeAndre Hunter did leave the game early. I think it was around the first or second quarter, I don't remember, with some knee issues. I really hope he's okay because the last thing this Hawks team needs is any more injuries. The Wizards still suck, though. I mean, Jerome Robinson has no business starting, and it's pretty laughable to just watch them play this season. Bertans looks like a terrible contract so far this season. He can't just buy a bucket to save his life, and overall this team is just garbage from top to bottom outside of Bradley Beal. The Hawks played pretty good defense, preventing Bradley Beal from getting to his spots, and you could tell he was out of rhythm for most of the game. Overall, this was just a good win for the Hawks and just another disappointing loss for the Wizards and Wizards fans. But next up, we have the Hornets versus the Pacers. This was just really hot shooting from the Hornets for most of this game. And like I said before, if you haven't watched, I think it was my first video I talked about, the Charlotte Hornets are just a really fun game. If you have not tuned into a Charlotte game, I think you really should. It's just a really fun team to watch. It's a fast-paced team with a high volume of threes. They just remind me of like a high school AAU team, to be completely honest. And it's capped off with some fun and crazy fast breaks like that comes from LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges. I mean, these guys have really good chemistry together, have some pretty insane alley-oops so far throughout the season. Many more to come to, definitely. The Pacers' lack of tempo, though, seemed to hurt them in this game specifically. And overall, the defense down the stretch just wasn't very good. Karis LeVert and TJ Warren, though, not being there is really hurting this team. You could tell their lack of consistent shot creator from their wings is definitely affecting this team on offense. And you can really just see that Brock is just the only one that can consistently get his bucket out on the perimeter. I was unable to witness their mini comeback, though, at the end of the game because I was just trying to tune into so many different games at once. But overall, this was a good win for the Hornets and not a great loss or look for the Pacers, I should say. At some point, though, the Hornets only had like 7 points in the fourth quarter. It was like 3:30 left in the game, and they only had 7 points. So that's a little bit concerning, but they were still able to finish like 18 by the end of the game in that fourth quarter. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was a little bit concerning. Next up, we have the Pelicans and the Bucks, though. This was just hot shooting from the Pelicans for basically this whole game. Bledsoe hit like 5 threes in the first half. This man was on a mission. While Drew Holiday just didn't shoot very well this game, as funny as that is, since, they were traded for one another, and Drew Holiday had 3 first-rounders to go in his name. So, as funny as that is, Lonzo Ball, though, I want to really talk about because he had a really good game. He finished with 27 points and easily his best game of the year. And I'm so glad I got to watch most of this game because I really enjoyed seeing Lonzo play aggressive on offense from start to finish. And you can see the potential that he has when he plays like that. He started the game like 1 for 6, but he kept going at it and trying to find his shots. And if he's able to build off this game into future games for the rest of the season, this Pelican team is definitely going to prove. For me personally, I don't care if he has games where he just doesn't shoot the ball very well. It's the fact that he just needs to play aggressive regardless of his shooting nights. That's all that matters, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make his team better and makes his impact on the floor that much more, I guess, impactful. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed seeing Lonzo Ball being aggressive. Great game from him. Great game from Bledsoe. Zion and Brandon Ingram had a great game as well. Nothing surprised there. For the Bucks though, they just didn't show up until like halfway through the third quarter. They were down by, I think, like even more than 25 points, but around 25 points. And they were able to cut to, I think, about 4 at one point in the fourth quarter. It was at the very end of the game where it didn't even matter. But I think this kind of showed, like, no matter who you're playing, you can't just show up for half a game and expect to win. Like, you got to play a complete game typically. And I think this is a good learning curve for the Bucks, because when they play a good team in the playoffs, they can't do that, or they can just try and turn it on halfway. You got to have a complete game in the playoffs. Giannis really showed as he turned it on by the fourth, or more like the third quarter, halfway, and he had a really good game. Middleton didn't really have the best game overall, but this was just an ugly loss for the Bucks. It's something they just need to put past them after this week. Next up, we have the Nets versus the Thunder. KD was out for this game. I just want to mention that. But the Nets just absolutely flooded, and it was bad. It got really bad at some points. Every time I was waiting for that Thunder comeback, everyone knows the Thunder, you never give up on them, because they will try and find a way to come back. And I just kept waiting for that, and it just never happened. I mean, they were like doing like some sort of like little quick, like maybe like a 6-0 run, we'll say. And then just out of nowhere, the Nets would just hit like a 3 or 2 or get fouled. And they had over 30 free throw attempts. I got a little frustrated though watching this game just for a little bit, because I remember seeing Horford and Bazley. Those two together played pretty solidly, but then they would sub in Roby and Poku and Muscala. And they were just getting torched on defense, and you could just tell the difference between Horford and Muscala / Poku and Roby. Sorry. They just really couldn't defend the Nets and what they were doing. And by about like 3 minutes left in the fourth, I just turned it off completely. They had no chance of coming back. But the scary part is about the Nets dominating. They put up about 150 points without Kevin Durant. This team is extremely exciting. I think everyone knows that, obviously, and they need to be given more credit for it, because I know they lost the Cavs twice, but like they do need to be given more credit for. This was a tough game for the Thunder, so I'm not really going to hold them account. Thunder have been pretty impressive this season. It was just a tough loss. Also, for all my Thunder fans, Brendan, when you watch this video, what the hell is Kenrick Williams' haircut? I need some of you Thunder fans to comment. What is that haircut? Do you guys claim that man? Because I don't know. That haircut is just not it. Shout out to Theo Melton, though. He really showed up and showed out. He's been pretty impressive these past couple of games. I like how the Thunder are starting to instill confidence in man. I actually really like him as a player. I'm not sure about his ceiling. I need to watch more Thunder games, to be completely honest. So I'm not exactly sure about Theo's ceiling, but I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from him these past couple of games. Let's see what he can build on these next few games going forward. Next up, though, we have the Spurs versus the Nuggets. I'm just going to keep this simple. I didn't really watch too much of this. This was one of the games where I just kind of watched a few minutes here and there. Spurs continue to be slept on, though, and don't get talked about enough. They've had a pretty solid start to this season. I'm definitely buying the Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray stock, like I said before multiple times. Both are going to be very good in the future and a great duo. Jokic finishes with another MVP, but the lack of defenders on the Nuggets once again ultimately hurts this team. They just couldn't get enough stops at the end of the game, and it definitely showed why, and that's why they lost this game, in my opinion, at the end of the game. Lastly, though, we have the Jazz versus the Mavericks. I think this is going to be my thumbnail. I think I'm going to have Rudy Gobert as my thumbnail, because the Jazz look scary. I think everyone in the NBA community is starting to talk about them now and give them the respect. I was definitely talking about them earlier, and I'm glad I bought on the Jazz in my preseason kind of thing. I didn't really talk about it on my YouTube as much because I don't know, I never really did. But I was definitely a believer in the Utah Jazz here because of Mike Conley stepping up, Bogdanovich coming back. Those two specifically, I should mention. But Donovan Mitchell's been out, and he was out again today. But currently in the standings, they are first, and they're just taking an insane amount of threes. I think they're leading the league in 3-point attempts. I gotta fact check that. But the amount of 3-pointers they are attempting this year, like I said, is insane. Dan Snyder has them playing. They just remind me, not completely, but they're giving me couple years ago Houston Rockets vibes, where it's mostly 3-pointers and inside, like in the paint finishes. And that could be scary because that efficiency can take on the Lakers and the Clippers, in my opinion, even if their lack of talent compared to them isn't there. I think that showed for when the Rockets played the Warriors a few years when they had KD, where they basically, I mean, in my opinion, if Chris Paul doesn't go down, they win that series. And we all remember, no one thought that the KD Warriors were even gonna, like, no one would touch them, and the Rockets basically did it. They almost won that. And if it wasn't for the abysmal Game 7 shooting performance, they could have won that game. And even so, then it was a pretty close game. So I'm gonna keep tabs on this Jazz team throughout the year because this insane amount of 3-point attempts is really gonna go well for them in the playoffs. Shout out to Jordan Clarkson. No, he's been insane this year. This man is just like can't miss. Like, he's been known for being a streaky shooter, and he's just been insane this year. Shout out to Bogdanovich too. He's been a monster this game. He's starting to slowly pick it up. He's finished with 25 points. Rudy Gobert, though, is showing his true value. I am the people in the NBA community that think that Rudy Gobert is actually more impactful for this team than Donovan Mitchell. I'm not sure about being better, but I truly think that Gobert is a more important piece for Mitchell, I should say, due to the type of system that revolves around Gobert. I'm not saying that it doesn't revolve around Mitchell either, but I think Gobert's defensively and his insane finishing ability, like he's shooting at the rim, is just, his percentages are just ridiculous this year. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. If you have another opinion, leave a comment down below. But I think that Gobert is showing his true value with Mitchell being out. He's been insane so far. But to talk about the Mavericks a little bit, I'm just going to go out and say it. The Mavericks look soft. They look soft. I'm sorry to say it. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, Maverick fans, but they look soft. And it's starting to concern me because I keep making these excuses for the Dallas Mavericks on what's going on, why they're losing, yada, yada, yada. And at a certain point, I just can't keep doing it. This was just not a great game for Porzingis again. Louis Doncic had a solid game, though, but just overall, the Mavericks just got pummeled by the Jazz for a second time now, I think this past week or so. So I just want to point that out. I'm starting to get a little concerned on the Mavericks. And there's been about almost 20 games now, so we'll see how that goes. But with that said, that will conclude the video for today. Tune in tomorrow around noon. I think we'll probably do it around 1 or 2-ish, for our first live podcast stream where we'll be talking about NBA and just a bunch of topics overall surrounding the NBA lately. So yeah, just tune in. Don't forget to like this video. And with that said, Private KJ out.